the big news is that BI 4.3 Service Pack 2 has officially been released. We can't seem to get the exact date, but it happened in the last few days. So it is in GA right now, so you can actually download it and start trying it out. And this is the release that we believe that most BusinessObjects customers will upgrade to from 4.2 at some point during 2022. And we've had two previous excellent sessions from Sam and Christian, where they have shown some of the new features that are in Service Pack 2 of BI 4.3. And so this event today is really for you to ask your questions about 4.3. We've got about a dozen or so questions that have already come in prior to the event, and we'll start with those. But please just go into the QA panel and feel free, right, to ask your questions. What do you want to know about BI 4.3 Service Pack 2? So with that said, I mean, let's move on to the questions, because we've only got 30 minutes. So we'll get started right away, Christian. So the first question is, does BusinessObjects 4.3 support single sign-on with SAP Portal NetWeaver 7.5? What a great question.
Yes, if you mean my SSO to DB, yes, it's supported.
It's fully supported. That's it. Great. Answer that one pretty easily. Can you pass a prompt for the IntraDocument link?
No, today we don't support it. However, we don't plan to support it. Indeed, now SP2 has been released. We have started to work on SP3. And what I'd like to support is the support of input control through IntraDocument Link. Because if we support prompt, it means you have to refresh the document. So the prompt raise. So what we would like, because you are in the same document with IntraDocument Link, the idea is you refresh your report once, and then using IntraDocument, you can switch one report to another one. But then because we use input control instead of prompt, it will do the same thing to filter the data in the report, but you will use an input control rather than a prompt. This is what we are working on for SP3.
Okay.
But it means supporting filters in the IntraDocument Link feature, okay?
Okay. And so that is planned for Service Pack 3, which will, right now is scheduled for December of 2022, right?
It's in our backlog. I cannot commit in front of everybody, but yes, we are working on it.
Okay, excellent. Can you use radio buttons in input control?
This one, in fact, we have something when you select the type of input control, you can say it's a list, and you can have it's not really a radio button, it's a check, it's a little check. So if the question is just about the look and feel of the UI, the behavior is the same. It's not a radio button, it's a tick.
It's a check. It's a check.
Yes,
yeah.
It's a check.
Okay. Yeah.
So if the question is just to have a radio button just to make it looks like a real radio button, no, it's not. But we can discuss if it's really important. But for me, the behavior is here. We have a check and it's behave like a radio button.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think the check is quite fine, to be honest. The next question, I think, you and Sam already answered, is the ability for report filter function to capture input control and element link section. Yeah, so that part's new.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, this is also something I'm looking at. In fact, when you do a report filters, it returns both filters and input controls. However, if you have a report with a lot of filters, if you use the report filters function, you have a lot of things in it, and it may be hard to just retrieve the input control values. So we are looking at it to see if we just pass the name of input control in the function, just to retrieve the exact values for this input control. Can be a proposal. And then we have nothing today for element linking. But this is something we could also introduce in next release.
Okay. By the way, Christian, if you think it's easier to quickly show something on the screen, in answer to some of these questions, just feel free to share your screen.
Okay.
But I'll leave that up to you. I know there's some activity going on in the chat session now, and Sam's taking care of it, so that's all good.
Yeah.
Is there an open option within the report?
So here, I think it means, can you open the document from Webby agents? Because today for the free, if you are working on a document and you want to open another document, you have to go back to the home page. Then you have to browse into the folders, and can take about 10 to 15 seconds. And so yes, I understand it can be long. And so today it's not possible, but we are working on it for SP3 because we have other customers who have requested it. And somehow it's quite common to have open a new button in the toolbar of a tool. And so we'll introduce them in SP3.
Okay, excellent. Is there the ability to change the font size and position alignment of the report tab name?
No. Today it's not possible. And unless I have a good use case to explain me why I can understand it can be nice to have it just for nice look and feel. But today, compared to other functional reporting features customers are asking for, I don't think we'll focus on this request right now.
Okay. All right. Sam, did you want to say something about the questions coming in the chat?
So in the chart, there was a question about having trellis in the release, trellis, Spark charts, and tables.
Yeah.
But I said it's not yet in for the trellis.
Okay.
We have it in the backlog for SP3, and we really hope to do it.
Okay.
There's another one which from Tammy saying, can we navigate the document by category as well by folder? I guess it's navigating from BI Launchpad through the various category.
Okay.
So I said yes.
For
Excellent.
this one, we would like also to have it directly from Webby agents, because the Webby agents, when you select a data source, or if you select, this is the case for shared element. Shared element from Webby agents in SP2, when you want to select the shared element, you can browse by categories. And you want to be able to browse by category in Webby agent when you select a data source, when you, which client, when you import a document, you want to browse by categories as well.
Okay, so you're saying you can do it in shared elements, but also we want to do it in Webi. Okay, yeah.
The last one, another one for Christian. Is copy-paste Webi report block to Excel supported in for 3SP2? So there was a mention about the demo we did, on the Odata service last time. So I explained, but if you want to comment on that, Christian.
Christian, did you get that? So basically, it's the bulk paste values in the query filter in list.
Yeah,
it's not available.
In 4.3, it was when you are in the list of values, you can only do a search and not set the values. So in SP1, I think we have introduced the capability in the list of value to set the values, but not to copy paste from Excel. And in SP2, we have introduced the capabilities to copy and paste from Excel.
Well, I think the question from Srini here is about copy and pasting a Webi block into Excel. And it's why I was talking about Odata, because with the Odata, you can suck the data and metadata, and you can send that to Excel, but you cannot send the format of it. You can only get the data.
Okay, I was looking at the last question, in fact.
Yeah, this is two different questions. Yeah, they're two different questions. Yeah.
Okay, so I've answered for the last question about how to copy and paste values in the prompt list of values. And about the Excel and Odata, let me check. Service. Yeah, indeed, the idea is to be able to, if you want to retrieve data from a web intelligence block into Excel, in SP2, we have introduced the ability to expose a web service from a web intelligence document. So it means from Odata, you can retrieve a feed from a web intelligence document.
Yeah. Could you possibly quickly share your screen and just show how to copy paste a Webi block to Excel?
It's not really a copy and paste. It's just to create a flow. You copy the URL from a block, Odata URL from a Webi document, and you paste it in Excel. You can get data from Odata, and then Excel is proposing you to retrieve the data from the Web Intelligence document.
So you're actually just copying and pasting the URL into the Excel. You're not actually taking, okay, makes sense.
It's right, you get only the data.
Right.
You don't get the formatting.
Yeah, not much to demo there then, except to, if you're just cutting and pasting the URL. Okay, all right, excellent. Okay, let's go back to the other questions. How does security of Webi data model work?
Okay, so here there are two things. First, there's when you are doing the refresh of so Webi data model is the ability to use a Webi document as a data source for another document. So first you have the security that applies when you refresh the document. Okay, so it's all the security that you know, like the row level security, the data security profile, the business security profile that applies when you do the refresh. So it's the user who are doing the refresh, its security applies at the refresh. Then when you open you open a document that use this Webi data model as a source, there's no additional security. The only additional security that applies is if your source document is based on a UNX, a universe created with information design tool, and if you have enabled the view time security, meaning you have say, okay, I want the business security profile that has been defined on the universe used as a data source for the Webi source document. And then when you are reading the second document that reads the first Web Intelligence document, the business security profile applies as view time security when you open the document without having to refresh the second document.
So in other words, the security is actually just being passed through. So you're saying that the security at the universe level, right, is controlling the master, right, Webi document that is then the data source to subsequent Webi documents, but the security passes all the way through.
Yes, but
right to the secondary documents.
Yes, but only if you have a universe created with information design tool, and if the security is based on business security profile and not on data security profile. Because on universe, in information design tool, you have two types of security profile: data security profile and business security profile. Okay, and so
so only if it's on the business security profile, that's the only part. And because so if it was a UNV universe, you wouldn't be able to do that.
No, it's not working because data security profile.
Because you don't have that.
Yeah, it's data security profile is more like SQL security. So it's like SQL that are applied to the query at runtime. Business security profile is more a higher level. So we are able to apply it without sending it to the database. So that's why we can apply it at business at view time without having to query the database.
So is there any additional security that you could potentially put onto the master Webi document that is now the data source to other documents? In other words, I can see what's happening here, that you might have a master document that is feeding all these others that perhaps you only want certain people to see certain things, but you're saying there's no way to actually do that at the Webi source document level.
No, except with so you have two other things, but I don't think it's going to answer the question. So you have security rights. So you can, for a user, to say, okay, he is not allowed to see this document data source. And then you have also the customization. So meaning in Webi, with a customization, you can say, okay, this guy doesn't have the right to create a document on top of other documents. Customization is just to hide some, in the UI, to hide the web intelligence document items when he is able to select the type of data source.
Okay, no, that's a thorough answer. Thank you very much, Christian. Appreciate that. Next question: can we mark objects to not be exposed as metadata for Webi as a data source, e.g., source dimensions for the merge dimension?
Yeah, I understand the question. So it's not only source dimensions; can be anything. If you have additional objects that you don't want to expose, so I understand the requirement. Unfortunately, it's not possible. We have discussed the ability to hide such objects, to put some properties in the object definition, but today it's not yet available. But it's still something we are thinking of.
Okay. All right. Yes, go ahead, Sam. Show your screen, because I think there were a few people in the audience who were quite keen to see that. So if you want to, if you just share your screen.
Okay, if you don't mind, Christian, I'll take
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 seconds. So I'm inside follow to SP3 in design mode. I'm going to remove the chat and this as well. Okay, so you see I'm design mode. I'm going to right click a block and I will say copy link for Odata web service. Okay, once done, I'm going to start Excel. And in Excel, I'm going to paste basically the link which has been created for me. So I'm going to go to data, get data from Odata feed. And this is where I can pass if it answers sometime. Yes. So this has been created, and I don't know why it's the port number is false. So I'm just correcting the port number, and that's it. I might just need maybe to authenticate, but as I know, I already authenticated before. So here you can select the flow. You see, you have a preview of the data and you can load it to Excel. Okay. But here you get only the data and metadata. If it was a chart, for example, it would not display a chart. It would provide me the data used to build the chart. Okay.
Okay, but that's still great. That's awesome. And Srinivas, that was your Christmas present, by the way. Thank you, Sam, for doing that. That's excellent. Okay, let me go back. Let me go back to the other questions here. Okay, we have. Can there be a more intuitive or obvious name for the new panels? That's more of an enhancement request, I think. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's you're talking about the side panels. So internally, we call them the main side panel, the build side panel, and so on. But it's right. When in fact, there's only some icons, and the names are not explicitly displayed. And when you hover your mouse over the tabs, there is a long tooltip, like open the panel that allows you to format the report element. Yes, I understand. I would have preferred to have some short name like a format panel, text panel, and so on. But today, I don't know why there was yes, there is a long tooltip. Yes, I look at it with Dave because we have discussed that, but we don't know why it has been done this way. But perhaps we need to have some more concise names for these side panels. I agree.
Yes, yes. Call them something funky. You know, something that people will remember.
At least what we have tried, especially in SP2, we have changed the icons because in 4.3 and even in 4.3 SP1, some icons were not very easy to understand. And so now we think it's quite more, intuitive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you know, just thinking out loud and brainstorming here, you know, even when people have issues, when they're going to report problems, I mean, what are they going to call them? You know, the main panel, side panel. You know, it would be good if they had, a common name that everybody recognized.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Can the change data source option be available in the query panel?
This one, we don't know. It's not something we have in our radar. We have to discuss. So in terms of change source, we have seen in SP2, we have a single query panel for all the data sources. What we would like to have is the ability to do a change source between any kind of data sources. So it's not available in the SP2 right now, but it's coming next. So you will be able to do a change source from a text file to a universe, to Odata, to whatever. And so we are first working on it. And then adding the change source directly in the query panel, it might be tricky because you have to, I don't think it's impossible, but technically, I think developer might have some troubles to.
Maybe we can say that for this one, we would like to have it in customer influence to see, you know, how many customers are voting for that, because it's weird to have the change source in query, and then we can go and check with dev, you know, feasibility and costing.
Well, that's a fair point, and obviously not enough people have been exposed to 4.3 yet to really, figure that out yet. But they will. I mean, to me, you know, the new data source option with the query panel is one of the most exciting things that we're seeing in 4.3, and I think that as people understand what it's capable of doing and what the possibilities are in terms of, you know, all these different data sources now that previously weren't easy to just bring straight in. Now they can, you know, it's just a click of a button within Webi. That I think that we're going to see more and more people use this functionality. And then, yes, to your point, Sam, you know, they might be more vocal about, wanting more in terms of, making that change data source option available. Okay, cool, good. All right. Can we have an easier geodata resolution? The ability maybe to choose the country at the top to resolve all the states at once, instead of having to resolve one at a time. And even better, you know, the ability to set defaults like a default country. Any plans to do anything further on that?
I think it's a good idea. We haven't think about it, so it's not yet in the product. But so what we have done in SP2, we have seen that it's possible to define geodimension in universe. Okay, so that's the improvement we have done in SP2. But yes, perhaps for the next one, we might I might see if we can do this kind of improvement. Okay, yes, it's like it's not just a little thing, but it might help a lot when you are doing the geo mapping. If you have a lot of names to map, I agree. It's an interesting idea.
Right. And in fact, yeah, somebody just prompted me. Thank you, Alan. I was about to say that. So we must have been thinking the same thing, that one of the interesting things now with 4.3 Service Pack 2 is you are going to get these free add-on components from need for Viz. I believe there's going to be about 6 of them. Seven. Okay, seven of them that will be completely free. I'm not sure that includes the mapping one. I think there was part of the mapping one in there as well. So with that question that you just answered, it occurred to me, well, Need for Viz, has a geospatial component, that allows you to integrate Google Maps into Web Intelligence, which has all sorts of capabilities, then obviously in, filtering and putting layers and all sorts of things on top of that as well. So there are, components out there. So these 7 free components is a good way for everybody to kind of put a toe in the water and see if, using, additional visual add-on components, will be very helpful for them in terms of, creating dashboards and applications within Web Intelligence itself. And then if you like what you see, you can buy the other ones or subscribe to the other ones as well. And so, a question comes up there right away, Sam and Christian, is that how will those be delivered? The freemium ones.
I think there's 2 options. One is to directly connect to their website because it's custom element. So you have to go to the CMC and just provide the URL. So I think they will provide the URL so you can connect to their server. And there's also another deployment where they just send you the jar or the WAR containing the custom element. You deploy it on your own app server. And then you provide the URL in the CMC to register it as a custom element for Web Intelligence. So this is how they deliver usually. I think they will do the same for the freemium offering. I didn't check with them, but for the normal, the classic offering, it's how it's working. I think they will do the same for freemium, but I cannot be sure.
Okay. A couple of other interesting questions. Somebody was asking if it's possible to upgrade direct from BusinessObjects 3.1 to 4.3. And Sam kind of hinted that, I'm not sure that's going to work because obviously the big thing is 3.1 is out of support. It's no longer supported at all. And so it's quite feasible that you've never done a certification test in a 3.1 to 4.3 upgrade.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Right. So I think the the advice would be to go through 4.2 first, and then from 4.2 to 4.3. The good news is that if you do that hard bit first, the 3.1 to 4.2, you would have broken the camel's back at that point because the upgrade from 4.2 to 4.3 is going to be just an update at that point.
Yeah.
But that would be the safer way to do it for sure. Another, interesting point that came out was, are there any plans to beef up the available video tutorials similar to the Tableau community? It's hard to find a lot of content regarding 4.3. The little mini tutorials that that you can find for Tableau all over the place. I mean, is there any plans there, or is that going to be pretty much left to the community rather than SAP to do that?
Well, we talk about it, honestly. It is something that we have identified and we know that there's a need for it and we need to produce it. When will that be available? Well, we can probably revisit the question next webinar because
right.
I cannot commit right away. It's not only us. It relies on some other teams. I mean, teams other than engineering.
Right.
So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes those kind of things will come from the education group or the marketing group, or others rather than engineering. But to that point, Christian, wrote a fantastic article on what's new in BI 4.3 Service Pack 2. Samuel can drop the link for that into the. Oh, you did, into the chat. If you haven't seen that, please read that, because that's an excellent overview of new features and functions that that you're going to find in this release, for sure. And you know, again, our advice across the board here is, you know, put it on a sandbox, kick the tires, get used to that new UI. Your end users who just consume reports are really not going to see a big difference between 4.2 and 4.3. But your developers, people who create Webi reports, people who interact heavily with Webi reports, they will see a difference. And so they need to get that exposure, you know, and possibly some training in order to get used to the new user interface. Internally here within InfoSol, and also we've done test drives for many customers as well, the feedback we've received is that you know, fundamentally, it's a bit tricky at first because we're all used to doing some things in a particular way. But after, you know, several days of using it, or even with some of our consultants, after a couple of weeks of using it, they don't want to go back to the old interface because they like the new interface so much and they find it more intuitive, faster, and much easier to use. And I think, to be honest, that's probably true of a lot of products these days, that, you know, once you get used to the new one, you don't want to go back to the old one. I remember how when I went to Windows 10, I said, bring back Windows 7, you know, but now I would never go back to Windows 7, right? So, you know, so that's it. So any closing comments, Christian or Sam, before we finish up here?
Just, well, SP2 is out, and we are already working on SP3 already, and hardly. And so we'll see how to, you know, how to work with you and a couple of your customers to get early feedback on SP3. We have to, you know, to see how we can arrange that, but definitely want to keep you, you know, in the loop of that. And that's it. Enjoy SP2.
Oh yes, we're all going to have fun with 4.3 SP2. Okay. All right.